Hi everyone, I'm Nikki Cornfield and I'm British and living in Perth. I'm delighted to be here and talk about my experiences of identity loss and the grief associated with that from my experiences moving around the world with my family of 5. So I have a husband and 3 children. I was always, as a young child, I had a determination that I was going on a journey. I just remember that deep-seated determination and fire inside of me that I was going to lead a free life. And I went on to, I didn't go down the conventional route of university. I went to be an air hostess. I travelled, I tried different jobs overseas, and I just knew that there was this journey that I had to go on. And I was driven by this real deep-seated compass, internal compass, which is my soul's journey. It knew it wanted to travel, so that's what I did. So meeting my husband and moving overseas was quite traumatic for me. I moved with a 6-week-old baby, six-week-old baby, in the middle of winter to the Netherlands, and hit a real crisis there of loss and grief from leaving my first home, leaving the job that I loved, and also a new career that I just started as a reflexologist, so I couldn't use that in the Netherlands. So that was the first part of my grief, was letting go of my first career, also doing a second one and losing that as well. So these layers of unresolved grief that a lot of expats talk about, I knew nothing about that. I didn't have a name for it. So as we moved to Australia with 3 small children, I'd added twins to my collection. Those layers of grief were already starting to be embedded, and I started losing my identity and who I was without really feeling like I could do much to control it. So living in Perth, I was consumed by 3 small children, didn't have family and friends, and I didn't really know how to change that. I didn't have any support from the company. I didn't have any expats around me. So I didn't have any of the framework that a lot of expats have now when they set foot on foreign soil. So I felt very unsupported and very alone, and really looking to do a career and to find myself, but didn't have the support network that enabled me to do that. And also a lot of grief from leaving family and friends behind. Moving to the other side of the world is a huge deal, especially with small children. So when opportunity came to move to the Netherlands, to Asia, and having help, I sort of started to get my feet again and went, wow, I can do something. So I became a yoga teacher, coming back to Perth and going to Bali and training to do something new. But again, my soil was quite loose, the foundations were quite shallow, and I realized that I didn't have any confidence to actually teach yoga. I'd really lost my confidence, and not having any earning capacity. That actually caused quite a lot of resentment and anger towards my husband, because I felt completely dependent on someone else, and I had never been that and never wanted to be that woman. So as we moved again to Malaysia, I realized that I didn't actually know where I was anymore, who I was, and had all the time in the world, had a helper. Money was no shortage of money. Obviously, as an expat wife, you have quite high disposable incomes, and that creates that security blanket, but it doesn't actually push you to find who you are. So when I moved to Adelaide 5 years ago, I hit an enormous identity crisis of such loss and grief, homesickness. I think homesickness for what I thought was a place. I wanted to go back to the UK. I was ready to throw the towel in. I was angry. I was upset. I was looking at 4 walls going, what happened? Where did I go? How on earth do I start finding my earning capacity in a career again when I've spent so long devoting it to my children? So what happened was quite, I wouldn't say a miracle, but by having to dig deep and retreat and go inside, which is what I did, because I didn't have anyone else around me to help me out of it. It was me or nothing. I didn't want to turn to antidepressants. I didn't want to go to a psychologist. I knew that I had to find the answers myself inside. So I began to write, and cutting a long story short, I ended up contacting and doing an online course with Jo Parfit, and I had done a writing course with her years ago in the Netherlands. So I began to do her Write Your Life Stories workshop online, and it was an absolute lifesaver for me because it enabled me to go right back to the beginning and tap into those very first seeds of loss, and all the way back to when I left the shores of the UK with a small baby. So we were talking 15, 16 years. And the only way of getting through the grief is to go through it. You have to retrace it, go back through it, write about it, heal from it, and let it go. And there was a lot of layers to go through. And, our marriage was an absolute washing machine. We went through so much together. And we were renovating a house at the time. So there was just layers and layers of stuff going on where I thought, wow, I felt like the lotus in the bottom of a muddy pond where I was getting sort of drowned, and the only way I was going to push my beautiful flower out was to do the work. So I started writing, and it became my tool for healing. And then I met quite by chance, lots of serendipity moments kept happening to me. Lots and lots of people came on my path to really help me find myself, because it was my soul that was actually finding a way out. So I met a guy called Tyler Tolman, a fasting and longevity expert, and I realized that I'd gone on my own healing journey, not only through my life experiences, but also I'd gone through my own health journey. And when I met him, I realized that I had just a huge message to share with the world through my writing, through my healing journey, through my experiences of navigating my family around the world. And I suddenly realized that, wow, none of it had been wasted. It was all coming together. It was all because I was here to find who I was. So I became an iridologist and a health coach, and I'm now writing my own book. And I actually chose to really find home, and I realized that home was inside, that it wasn't a place. It wasn't that I wanted to go home to the UK. It was I actually needed to find home back to myself. I had a daughter who was going through a huge identity crisis as well, having moved around the world, and as a third culture child, moving to a small town in Adelaide, South Australia. She was completely unrooted and had lost herself, because she couldn't find those anchors, those places to plug herself in where she felt like she belonged, which is what third culture children do. They find a person like themselves in a room and they feel like they're at home. So I actually decided I needed to find a solution to her problems, because we'd created it by moving her over and over again. So I felt a responsibility to her. And I chose to move the family back to Perth because we had a lot of friends here. Elise had already come back to board, and she came over to boarding school. So that was a huge thing in itself. So we sold our just finished house after 3 years of money and tears and turmoil and arguments. We put all our love and everything into this house, and I said, no, we need to move. And so it was the first time I really owned my voice and took the time to look at what I wanted and solve the identity crisis, which was massive. I was completely lost. And many people would have turned to alcohol, to overeating, to drugs, who knows what. I mean, it was so debilitating. And I think a lot of women do get to that point nearing 50s where they've been this dependent spouse, this trailing spouse, the old word, where they've lost their earning capacity, where they've done everything for their children, and they absolutely don't know where they are, who they are. And for some women, they like it. They decide to repatriate, they go home, their kids go to university, and they start something new and they're okay. But there's an awful lot of women, and I was one of them, where it's a very different story. So I really I'm very happy to share this with you. And I could talk all day, because this is a huge topic, and I have developed this theme of losing identity and finding purpose in my book. I felt that I really owed it to other women to help them, because I think it's very much a bigger crisis than you think, and not just caused from having a nomadic life, but also women with unresolved dreams and disappointments, and just, you know, they've always put other people first, and they end up really not fulfilling their potential. And I think it's very sad that we are such a powerful, women are so powerful, and I think we are coming into our power, and it really needs to be seen that it's important that we do that, because we are a stronger race. Everybody who knows that knows women are a stronger race. I shouldn't say that, but I'm going to, because we're amazing. And I want to have my book and my message help celebrate women and the potential we have at having these amazing independent lives. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody wants to reach out to me. I've got so much to share and so much to help other people with. So yeah, it's been a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for listening.